Hey guys, tonight we travel back to the volcanic soil of 18th century Saint-Domingue, where the steam rising from the earth is more than just mist. It's the beginning of survival. You're barefoot, naturally stepping cautiously across ashen ground that's still warm from yesterday's fire. A crescent moon clings low in the sky. Every breeze tastes faintly of soot, and each stone beneath your heel feels like it remembers being fire. Here, where modern-day Haiti brews in its infancy, the enslaved cook fires burn low, but they burn constantly. You duck beneath the low branches of a breadfruit tree, swatting away a mosquito with the back of your wrist. You're heading toward the kitchens. Not a kitchen like the stainless steel ones in your world. No, this is an open pit ringed by lava stones, porous and blackened, stolen from the belly of a slumbering volcano centuries ago. You can smell smoke before you see it mingling with the heavy perfume of mango and the sharper edge of burnt sugar. This is a place where fire isn't just heat, it's power. And if you're lucky, it's nourishment. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always magical to see where in the world we're dreaming from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crouch beside the glowing stones where another cook is already at work. You know her only as Manmi Ida. Her arms are strong, her hands stained with ash, and her laugh when it comes is as smoky as her broth. She doesn't speak French, or at least she won't waste it on you. Her Creole is clipped and fast. She gestures for you to watch, not talk. You do. And in doing so, you enter a world that historians rarely put on paper, a world of survival cuisine. The French colonists call this place the Pearl of the Antilles, but you know the shine is only on the surface. Beneath the sugar cane and coffee lies a continent of stolen labor. Every plantation is an empire built on someone's back. And when it comes to food, the enslaved make magic from the margins, leftover bones, rejected tubers, and whatever the forest won't miss. But here's the thing, they also have the volcano. Or rather, the stones. They're not precious like diamonds. They're better, because they store heat. The kind of heat that doesn't just scorch, but lingers. The stones come from old flows, cracked and porous like forgotten promises. Sometimes the overseer lets workers cart them from dormant slopes. Other times they're borrowed from property lines during moonless nights. Either way, you heat them in fire pits until they glow. Then, you tuck them under pots beside plantain bundles, or deep into clay ovens dug into the earth. You don't use timers, you use your nose, your ears, the feel of steam on your lips. Ada sprinkles water on one of the stones. It hisses like a serpent spitting vapor in a sharp white curl. You flinch. She smirks. The smell rising from the pot is unlike anything you've known. There's garlic sure, and green onions crushed with a pestle carved from driftwood. But there's also an aroma that doesn't come from ingredients. It's deeper, earthier. It's the stone. It changes the food. Historians still argue whether this method came straight from West African hearth culture or was a new invention of survival here in the Caribbean. Some say it mimics the cooking pits of the Fula and Yoruba. Others argue it's born from necessity, nothing like it back home. But you don't really care what the academics decide. You care that the stew tastes like smoke and sweetness, and that you're allowed a spoonful before the master's pot is filled. Ada warns you not to bite the stone at the bottom. It's meant to keep the liquid bubbling evenly, not to crunch between teeth. You nod. Of course, because stones here are more than stones. There's one you've been eyeing all evening, oval-shaped, smooth, but scarred by years of fire. You know she keeps it for special dishes, the way some people save a cast-iron skillet for Sunday roast. She calls it Thai Flam Little Flame. Superstition, maybe. Or maybe it's just the only legacy she's allowed to pass on. The overseer whistles once sharp and metallic. Time's up. The stew must go. You help carry it to the manor, where porcelain bowls will pretend it came from some chef in Marseille. But you know better. You know the heart of it came from the mountain, from the soot, from Ida's blistered hands. And you, well, you're just beginning to understand the rhythm of this place. In a few hours, you'll be back at the pit. The stones will have cooled to a gentle warmth, but the earth will still remember. You'll dig a little deeper next time. Learn how to stack them just right, how to test temperature by touch, and how to cook a full meal without a single metal tool. But that's for tomorrow night. Tonight, you fall asleep in the dirt, next to a stone that once boiled bouillon, wondering if it might still be warm by morning. You wake to smoke curling across the dawn, not the choking kind, but the soft, rolling breath of a kitchen fire just catching its stride. It smells of something starchy, maybe breadfruit, and something deeper bitter almost. The kind of bitter that tells you the cook is using scraps today. The plantation is stirring, but not yet shouting. That comes later when the drivers bring their whips and their counting sticks. For now, it's quiet, which is why you move softly through the underbrush behind the slave quarters, tracing a path worn by hundreds of bare feet. You follow it to the place you were warned about, the hidden kitchen. It's not really a kitchen. It's a pit half covered by rotting banana leaves. Around it are scattered tools, a carved wooden ladle, a flattened gourd bowl, a cracked pot held together with twine and hope. But what stands out most are the stones. They're black, scorched, pitted with time and fire, arranged in a tight ring, some of them still warm. This is where the night cooks do their work, not for the masters, but for themselves, and for the others. Children, elders, runaways, when they can sneak them food. It's not legal. Nothing is legal here except suffering. A young man you don't know yet is tending the pit. He doesn't look up when you arrive. He just shifts a flat slab of stone with a makeshift paddle, exposing glowing coals underneath. You notice the way he moves, efficient, silent, like this isn't a task, but a language. He's making a kind of mash malanga, you think, mixed with charred greens and bits of salt pork. Someone must have smuggled from the big house. It doesn't smell fancy, but it smells alive. This, you're beginning to understand, is where real food happens. Not the polished stews and buttered sauces of the colonists, but this scraped-together magic, built from memory hunger and volcanic stone. Because here's a strange truth. The hearths the enslaved people use, the real ones, aren't just survival stations. They're memory banks. Most cooks here have never seen Africa, but their hands remember it. The way they layer leaves, the way they roast tubers in the ground, the way they talk to the stones as they cook. It's not just habit. It's heritage. Historians still debate how much of this African culinary continuity survives in 18th-century Saint-Domingue. Some argue the brutality of slavery erased those traditions entirely. Others believe the opposite, that food was the one place rebellion thrived quietly, night after night, under banana leaves and ash. You don't know the full truth, but standing here, the scent of smoke in your nose, the warmth of lava stone near your shins, you lean toward the ladder. The cook, his name is John, you'll learn later, finally looks up. He eyes you, not with suspicion exactly, just calculation. He knows you're not from around here, but he hands you a hollowed calabash bowl anyway. Inside is the mash. It's soft, steaming, earthy. You eat slowly, trying not to seem too hungry, but you are. Everyone here is always hungry. Jean finally speaks. Just one word, Quit. Done. You nod, not sure what's done. But then he shows you. The pit has more than one use. He pulls a stone aside and starts clearing ash from a bundle of wrapped leaves. When he opens them, steam explodes upward in a fragrant cloud. Inside is meat goat, maybe so tender. It looks like it surrendered. The stone beneath it is slick with juice still holding heat, like it remembers the fire personally. You're not allowed any. Not this time. It's for someone else, probably the midwife who helped deliver a baby last night. Payment of a sort. Respect, more likely. That's another thing food here isn't currency. It's a signal. Who cooked for you, who shared with you, who let you eat off their stone that matters. It builds bonds deeper than blood. Later, while John cleans the stone with a twist of dry grass, he hums. A low tune, rhythmic, without words. You realize it's a work song, but not for sugarcane, for cooking. He taps the lava rock in time, with the beat flipping it to cool on the other side. You sit and watch. Not just the cooking, but the reverence. There's something sacred here, even if no one says it. The volcanic stones aren't just practical, they're spiritual. Each one is old, weathered, reused 100 times over. They've cooked feasts. They've seared punishments. They've heard prayers whispered through gritted teeth. The hearths hidden in slavery like this one are part altar, part memory, and part resistance. You begin to wonder how many enslaved hands held these stones before yours. How many of them knew the same trick Jean just used to boil water, with no pot? Just a ring of superheated stones and a folded banana leaf. It's not in any cookbook, but it works. As midday sun climbs and shadows shrink, the kitchen becomes too hot. Jean buries the stones in sand to cool slowly. You offer to help, and he shrugs. It's not approval exactly, but it's not rejection either. So you get your fingers dirty. You place the rocks, just so feeling the weight, the warmth, the tiny grooves your fingers find and memorize. They feel like old scars, familiar ones. You don't say much, but you've earned a second bowl of mash. And this time, Jean sprinkles something on top, dried fish skin, crisped over the stone, and shredded fine. It's not fancy, but it tastes like home. By the time you find your way back to the central cookyard, your hands still smell like smoke and stone. The air is thicker here, almost syrupy. Somewhere nearby, someone is roasting coffee beans, a luxury reserved for the masters, of course. But you catch the scent as it slips through the morning haze. The sharp bitterness cuts through the sweat and sugar cane. In front of you, a woman named Solène crouches over a flat stone, surrounded by 6 smaller ones glowing red-hot. Her headscarf is soaked through with sweat, but her hands move like she's conducting a symphony. She's not stirring a pot. She's not even using one. You kneel beside her, and that's when you see it. The large stone in the center has been smoothed over years, maybe decades of constant use. It's not natural anymore, it's culinary architecture, a cast-iron pan before cast-iron pans. She dribbles water across it and listens to the hiss, not just to check the temperature, but to hear if the stone is ready. You listen too. It sounds like rain hitting metal during the first minutes of a storm. What she's cooking isn't immediately obvious. The ingredients are simple yams, green plantains, chopped peppers, bits of salted fish. But instead of throwing them into a pot, she's placing them directly onto the stone, searing them, turning them with a shard of palm bark. She adds nothing but time and pressure. The smaller surrounding stones aren't for decoration. They act like little satellites, each one at a different heat stage. She rotates food from one to another in a slow, practiced dance, like a jazz drummer who never looks at her sticks. You ask about the pot. She laughs softly. Pots crack, pots rust, stones stay. It's true. Metal is precious here. Copper pots are hoarded by the plantation kitchens, or sent off to be repaired. Clay breaks. Even gourds wear out eventually. But volcanic rock, that's eternal. It holds heat better than clay, better than iron, and it's free, if you know where to look. Historians still argue whether these stone fire cooking methods evolved independently in Haiti, or whether they were adaptations of West African techniques using New World materials. Some point to archaeological digs in Benin and Ghana that show similar flat stone heating patterns. Others believe this is something new, born entirely out of resourcefulness and necessity in a brutal colonial system. Either way, the innovation is obvious. You reach out and touch one of the cooler stones. It's smooth in places, pocked in others. You notice scorch marks that look like miniature craters. There's beauty in it, but more importantly, there's function. Solène is making a kind of fritter, crushed yam and pepper mix, pressed flat between hot stones like a sandwich, then slowly roasted until it crisps on the outside. You don't know the name. You never catch the recipe. But when she hands you a piece, charred edges, steaming center, you don't ask questions. You bite. It's crunchy, earthy, and faintly smoky. There's no added fat, no frying, just pressure and time. The stone did all the work, like oven, Solène mutters. But better. You believe her. Nearby 2 children are carrying smaller rocks from the edge of the fire. They place them carefully into what looks like a wooden box, lined with woven palm. You ask what they're doing. Solène answers without looking up, keeping food warm, like your, what you call it, lunchbox. You smile. A volcano-powered lunchbox. Makes sense. One of the kids opens the box, and a burst of steam fogs his face. Inside is a bundle of wrapped maize cakes still warm from an hour ago. The rocks hold heat like a grudge. Solène uses a different method for stewing. No pot required. She carves a bowl from a giant calabash and sets it inside a ring of low stones, then surrounds it with preheated lava rocks. Not touching the bowl, just kissing its edges. She pours in a mixture of water-chopped greens and slivers of goat fat, covers it with plantain leaves. The stones never touch the food, but they radiate around it like body heat in a crowded room. Slowly, the liquid starts to bubble. You realize suddenly, this is more than cooking. It's engineering, culinary physics. The people here have recreated everything a modern kitchen does without tools, without metal, without fuel beyond branches and time. You think about how this knowledge isn't written down. It's not taught in schools. It's passed from hand to hand, like a warm stone in the cold. One of the kids tries to sneak a bite from the fritters. Solène gently swats his fingers with her bark spatula. Then she hands him one anyway, because rules bend always for the hungry. By midday, she's made enough to share. You get another piece this time with dried mango folded inside. a sweet surprise against the smoky grit. You ask her how she learned to cook like this. She shrugs. My mother. Her mother. Then me. The implication is clear. If you don't learn it, it dies with you. You sit beside the fire until the stones cool your legs, stretched out belly full. You think about the pots you have at home, the timers, the gadgets, the instant options. And somehow you miss the hiss of water on stone, the feel of scorched earth beneath your fingertips. Tonight, you'll dream of heat that lives in rock, and food made from nothing but patience and inherited flame. The sun dips low again, casting long shadows over the plantation. You walk past the cane fields, where the air hums with insects and resentment, and into the dense grove, where the ground softens beneath fallen leaves. Here, away from prying eyes, a very different kind of kitchen waits. You find it in a hollow surrounded by breadfruit trees. The pit is already dug shallow oval, lined with smooth lava rocks. Someone's covered it with banana leaves weighed down at the corners, with polished stones darkened by decades of use. Steam curls from the seams, and the air smells like roasted taro, and something floral, maybe allspice. This is no ordinary cook fire. This is a slow oven built into the earth itself, an ancient trick maybe from the Taino people, who were here long before the French, or maybe passed down from West Africa through whispered memory. Historians still argue which origin story holds weight, and which is just romantic myth-making. You don't need a citation. You just need your nose. A woman named T. Rosé pulls aside a leaf, carefully, reverently. You kneel beside her. She nods for you to watch, but not touch. This isn't fast food. This is patience made edible. Inside the pit is a layered meal that looks more like architecture than cuisine. First a bed of hot stones, then roots cassava yam taro, each wrapped in damp leaves, then a sprinkling of herbs, culantro wild thyme, maybe even a few rare sprigs of imported parsley, someone bribed out of the manor gardens. Above that, a wild game bird quail, or guinea fowl dressed with dried orange peel, resting like royalty beneath the final leaf canopy. And at the very top, smooth river stones. Weights, pressing down, holding heat. The genius of this method is subtle. No smoke escapes, no fire visible. It's nearly invisible cooking, essential in a world where even the scent of food can draw punishment or thieves. In the forest, the only witness is the breeze. T. Rosé lifts one bird carefully from its nest. You smell the citrus first, then the gamey richness beneath. She hands it to a young boy barefoot, quiet eyes wide. He carries it off toward the camp, where a sick elder waits. This isn't a feast. It's medicine. You sit beside the pit as she prepares another bundle. She hums as she works, not quite a song, more a rhythm. You notice she touches each stone as she sets it a gentle tap, a moment of silence, like she's checking for something. Heat, sure, but maybe more. Stones remember, she finally says, not looking up. If you use them wrong, they burn food, or make it bitter. You try it. You lift a stone. It's warm, almost soft with heat. You set it down beside your leg and let it rest. It doesn't burn, but it demands your respect. The food inside the pit continues cooking even after the fire's out. That's the miracle. Heat stored in porous lava, slowly radiating like a tired breath. No pot, no pan, no fuel. Just fire memory and rocks. You watch as T. Rosé prepares the next layer. She doesn't measure. She knows. The way some people know when rain's coming or when someone's lying. It's in her bones, passed down like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. There's a fringe theory you once read, just a whisper of a notion really, that the enslaved women of Saint-Domingue carried not only stories and scars, but encoded recipes. Songs sung in rhythm while cooking that contained directions, timings, ingredients. A mnemonic kitchen. Scholars scoff, but you can't help noticing that Tea Rosé hums louder during certain steps, a change in pitch when she folds the leaves, a pause before she lays the stones. Coincidence, maybe. Or maybe survival wears clever disguises. A younger girl arrives with a bundle of river moss. Tea Rosé uses it to line the next set of roots. The moss insulates, she explains, keeps the stone heat from over-roasting the tender greens. You ask where she learned this. From a ghost, she jokes. Or my aunt. Same difference. You laugh, then stop. Because maybe she's not joking. Not entirely. The pit method, known by many names you'll never spell right, has rules. Don't dig too deep. Don't let the stones touch meat directly. Always sing, even if just a hum. And never leave the pit uncovered, not even for a moment. The earth has its moods. You offer to help. She lets you lay down a final layer of leaves. You press them gently over the moss, trapping the heat like a lullaby. By nightfall, the whole grove smells like hunger. Good hunger. Waiting hunger. People come quietly one by one. Not a crowd. Just enough. A midwife. A limping field hand. A girl with a bandaged arm. Each one gets a portion. No one takes more than they need. And just like that, the pit is empty. The rocks still glow, but their work is done. You sit back with Tea Rosé sharing a roasted plantain. She eats slow, every bite deliberate. You ask if she ever wishes for a kitchen with walls. She shakes her head. Walls means someone else owns the fire. That silence after. That's what sticks with you. Later, when the pit is cooled and covered again with soil, you help collect the stones. You place them in a woven basket, not because they're fragile, but because they're honored. They'll be used again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after revolution. They're not just stones anymore. They're partners. You head back to the quarters, with the smell of roasted yam clinging to your shirt, and a warm stone tucked secretly in your palm. You don't know why you took it. Only that it feels like part of the story now. The stone you carry still holds a hint of heat when dawn breaks again. You keep it tucked under your mat at night, not out of superstition, you tell yourself, but for the comfort. But you've begun to notice that people glance at it with a kind of quiet approval, like you've passed a test, without knowing it was being given. This morning, you're not heading to the plantation kitchen or the forest grove. You're walking toward a clearing lined with split logs and calabash bowls, where the older women cook together beyond the reach of overseers, and just far enough from the quarters to speak freely. They call it La Quai d'Ife, the fire home. Here, under the heavy heat of early morning, the past simmers along with the broth. You settle in beside a woman with deep wrinkles and a voice like crushed gravel. Her name is Manbodella, and the others give her space, as if the smoke itself defers to her. She doesn't greet you. She just nods at your stone. Put it in the ring, she says. You obey. She's making something that smells like both memory and morning. A soup. Dark, thick, stirred with a spoon carved from a root you don't recognize. Into it go chopped greens, dried okra slivers of pepper, and carefully volcanic stones, still hot, still whispering from last night's fire. This is the moment you begin to understand something. The stones don't just cook the food. They shape it. The soup's flavor changes, depending on the heat of the stone, how porous it is, how many times it's been used. The same way iron seasons in a skillet, the stone lends its soul to the pot. Manbo Della murmurs something over each one before dropping it in. You don't catch the words, but you feel the pause, the intention. The stone is no longer just a heat source. It's an ingredient. Historians often overlook this part. Sure, they note the volcanic terrain, the resourceful kitchens, the lack of metal, but they rarely mention the way stones become culinary companions, how their weight is felt, even when not in the hand, how some are passed down like heirlooms, how one might be wrapped in cloth and buried with its owner. The fire home is filled with women who remember things in their bones. Some were born here, some brought across the sea. All of them carry pieces of West Africa that the ships couldn't burn away. You ask about the soup. They call it bouillon tête fait bouillon of the ironhead, but that's just one name. It changes. Sometimes it's for healing, sometimes for strength. Today, Della says it's for remembrance. You don't ask whom they're remembering. You just sip when it's your turn. The broth is thick, slightly sour, and almost unbearably comforting. You taste smoked yam, a hint of charred citrus peel, and the unmistakable earthy signature of warm rock. It coats your tongue like a lullaby. Don't chew the stone, one of the women jokes. They all laugh. You smile and check your bowl just in case. When the bouillon is gone, they begin the second part of the ritual. Not cooking, but telling. One woman, Lumen, begins a story. Not a parable, not a fable. A memory of a night in Gonaves when she cooked over lava stone in a storm, hiding from both thunder and soldiers. Her voice cracks, but her eyes never waver. The stone in her lap seems to glow a little brighter. Another woman. Seraphine describes her mother's stone, shaped like a wedge, always carried in a cloth bundle. She says her mother could boil water with it in less than 5 minutes, no matter how weak the fire. She talked to it, Seraphine says, like it was a child. There's a pause, then laughter, but not mocking laughter, reverent, knowing. You begin to wonder if you should name your own stone, but that feels too soon. You haven't earned that yet. Someone brings out cassava cakes roasted on a flat stone earlier that morning. They crackle when you bite into them crisp on the outside, chewy at the center. No seasoning, no oil. Just the plant, the heat, and the hand that knew how to press it thin enough not to crack. You ask if the volcanic stone changes the flavor. Manbo Della raises an eyebrow. Change the flavor, she echoes. It decides the flavor. She says stones from different parts of the island give different results. Coastal lava cools faster. Mountain stone holds heat like an old grudge. Some add bitterness. Some lighten the stew. Some are just stubborn and never settle into the fire right. It's like cooking with personalities. One woman laughs, saying she once had a stone that liked to burn things on purpose. Another claims hers makes the soup saltier unless she sings to it. You don't know how much is joke and how much is gospel, but it all tastes like truth. Later, as the sun climbs and the fire dies down, they wrap the remaining hot stones in cloth and tuck them away, not for storage, but for safekeeping. One is slipped into a hollow tree, another into the pocket of a girl no older than 10. She walks away solemnly, like she's just been handed a secret. And maybe she has, because when you cook with stones, you're not just making a meal. You're making a connection to the land, to the ancestors, to the version of yourself that still remembers what fire meant before there were matches or clocks or steel. That night, when you return to your mat, you hold your stone a little longer. You whisper something, not a prayer. Exactly. Just a thank you. For the heat. For the flavor. For the company. And as you drift into sleep, you swear it holds its warmth just a little longer than it should. The plantation is louder today. The rhythm of machetes in the cane fields ticks like an angry metronome. Shouts travel faster in the humid air, and even the birds seem more anxious in their trees. You walk faster than usual, heart, a little tight breath catching with each step. There's tension in the wind like thunder wants to speak, but hasn't decided when. You're on your way to see John again. You find him in the corner of the quarters, crouched low beside a ring of stones half buried in ash. His eyes dart to yours, then to the open yard, then back down. Without speaking, he hands you a small bunch of lemongrass and points toward the pit. You get to work. Today, you're helping with the day meal not for the masters, but for the enslaved workers returning from the fields. Their break will be short. The food must be hot. And no one can know the secret ingredient. Because today, the food is carrying a message. Jean doesn't say it aloud, but you sense it in the way he moves. The way he stirs the pot with a little more force. The way he crushes pepper with the side of his palm instead of the pestle. This isn't just nourishment. It's signal. The stew is darker today. He's added charred plantains, roasted garlic, smoked eggplant. The base is thick, rich with marrow from bones he rescued from the manor kitchen scrap heap. Into that, he folds a bundle of herbs, wrapped tight with string. You recognize lemongrass, yes, but also wild anise chopped bitter leaf, and a sliver of bark you don't recognize. What's in that, you whisper? Jean doesn't look up. Bouillon flamme, he says. Flame broth. You nod like you understand, but you don't. Not yet. The volcanic stones still buried in last night's ashes are brought back to life. You and Jean work in tandem now, lifting them, brushing off grit, tucking them into the earth around the pot like warm arms. The heat builds slowly, evenly. No boiling, no burning. Just steady pressure. And above it all, the smell. It's intoxicating. Smoky sweet and sharp, with something herbal. You're drawn in against your will. If a French officer wandered through now, they'd smell it too, and ask too many questions. So you work fast. John lowers the lid and piles extra ash on top. No flames visible, no steam. Just a whisper of heat bleeding into the ground. You sit beside him, as the broth simmers invisibly. He finally speaks. Smoke is too loud, he says. But smell can lie. You blink, then realize he's not talking about the food, that bundle of herbs. It's a code, a sign, carried in scent. The bitter leaf means tonight. The anise. Gather quietly. There are no drums allowed anymore. No chants. No maps. But food still speaks. Historians rarely write about this kind of rebellion. They focus on battles, treaties, dates. But the small acts stirring resistance into soup-feeding information, along with cassava, they're harder to trace, and harder to forget. Jean gives a bowl to a young girl who darts off without a word, another to a man with a limp. Each recipient knows exactly what they're eating. They don't gulp it down. They listen to it, with their noses, their tongues. The overseer passes nearby. Jean straightens. You both go still. The man sniffs the air, scowls, mutters something about burnt roots, and moves on. You both exhale. Later, John lets you taste the bouillon flamme. It's bitter, but in a thrilling way, like chewing a secret. The stone's heat has done its work. Each spoonful clings to your throat, warming the inside of your chest. Too hot, Jen asks, smirking. You cough once, then smile. Perfect. You clean up quietly. The stones are cooled in water and rolled in dry leaves ready for reuse. Jean picks up one and presses it to his temple. Even cold it remembers, he says. Even cold it keeps the fire. It's hard to know if he means the stone or himself. A woman arrives with a bundle of plantain skins. She's going to start the night meal. Jean hands her two of the best stones, his silent approval. They nod at each other. No words needed. You've seen this rhythm before, but only now do you understand it fully. The volcanic stones aren't just tools, they're co-conspirators. They hide fire. They mute smoke. They signal with scent. They protect secrets the way skin protects muscle, quietly, firmly, and with just enough give to survive another day. That night, you lie awake listening to distant drums, barely audible, more like thunder, echoing through bone than actual sound. The rebellion hasn't started. Not yet. But in kitchens across the plantation, stones are heating, herbs are steeping, broth is thickening, and mouths are whispering messages spoonful by spoonful. You hold your stone close again. Tomorrow it might carry your message too. You rise before the sun because that's when the real magic happens, before the world is fully awake, before overseers bark orders, and the day bends under sugar cane and sweat. The air is damp and chilled, your breath visible in little puffs, as you move through the palm-shadowed paths, toward a clearing even more hidden than the last. It's not a kitchen, not quite. It's a circle stones arranged not just for heat, but for meaning. This is where the voodoo cooks gather. You've heard whispers, caught sideways glances, half-spoken warnings. But now you're here, and the stillness is unlike anything you've known. Not silent, just expectant, as though the earth itself is waiting. A woman named Ma Danto, named for the LWA, the spirit of motherhood and vengeance, kneels at the center of the ring. Her hair is wrapped in a deep red cloth. Around her neck, beaded strands clink gently when she moves. Her hands are black with ash, but her eyes glow with the kind of fire that never goes out. She doesn't invite you. You're simply expected. She places a single volcanic stone in the center of a calabash bowl and pours water over it. The water sizzles, then stills. She doesn't flinch. Heat wakes the spirit, she says. You sit hands in your lapstone resting warm against your thigh. Around you others arrive, some quietly, others humming. Each brings an offering, a gourd of oil, a handful of allspice, a strip of dried goat meat, and always a stone. Not just any stone, a personal stone. You begin to realize something that isn't in the history books for these cooks. Stones are more than heat conductors. They're vessels, spiritual batteries. They hold more than warmth, they hold presence. Stones remember what we forget, Ma Danto whispers. They hold what we fear. The cooking begins, but not with food, with incense. Dried herbs are tossed on glowing rocks, lavender basil crushed bitterroot, and the smoke rises in columns winding upward like questions. The smell is heady, sharp, not unpleasant, but powerful enough to command attention. Then the real work begins. Into a pot balanced atop 3 scorched stones go the usual things: garlic, onion, shredded greens, crushed root. But also things you don't expect, things no plantation stew ever used: powdered bone, a splash of rum, a twist of citrus peel blessed with a kiss. It's not just a recipe, it's a ritual. You glance around. No one is writing anything down, yet everyone knows their part. Historians still struggle to untangle how deeply Haitian vaudou influenced everyday cooking in the 18th century. Some say it was superstition, nothing more. Others argue that every ingredient, every step had a spiritual echo, especially among enslaved women who used the kitchen as altar and battlefield both. But here, surrounded by flickering light and low chants, you see no need to argue. It's obvious. Ma Danto chants under her breath, her hand moving in circles over the bubbling pot. Her stone, her favorite, rests nearby, blackened from years of fire. She touches it periodically, as if drawing strength from its memory. You lean closer to the pot. It smells alive, like sweat and salt and something buried long ago. The steam curls against your face, and you close your eyes just for a moment. And then for just a second you feel something, like the heat reaches further than skin, like the scent goes deeper than nose, like the stone beside your leg knows you. You blink, shake it off, but your fingers twitch against the rock. The food is shared in silence. Each person receives a portion, no speaking, just eating, eyes closed, spoons moving slowly. One man weeps quietly into his bowl. No one asks why. No one needs to. Afterward, the stones are removed and set in a separate ring, not cooled, honored. Each one is wiped gently with a cloth soaked in bay rum, then placed back in satchels wrapped like babies. You ask Ma Danto why. Because spirits ride the stone, she says. And we do not disrespect the ride. You think back to every meal you've eaten here, every stone you've touched, and you realize you've been doing it wrong, rushing, tasting, observing, but not listening. Tonight, that changes. You're invited to leave your own stone in the ring, a sign of trust. You hesitate. It feels like handing over a piece of yourself, but you do it, and Ma Danto nods. Later, as the group disperses into the pre-dawn mist, she presses something into your palm, a sliver of dried ginger wrapped in palm thread. Boil with your stone tomorrow, she says, but only if you're ready. You want to ask what she means, but she's already gone. You walk home slowly, stone bag empty, palm warm, the ginger scent strong in your pocket. The jungle hums with frogs, and somewhere far off a conch shell blows, once low and mournful. You think again of the phrase spirits ride the stone, and you wonder if they do. Where are they taking you? The ginger root sits beside your stone, glowing faintly in the orange light of early morning. It's your turn to cook, or so everyone's decided. Jean gave a lazy nod. Ma Danto gave a look that felt like a challenge. Even Solène, who once barked at you for chopping plantains too thick, handed you a flat leaf with an unexpected softness in her gaze. No pressure, right? You gather what you need, a few root vegetables, a pinch of crushed herbs from the community stash, and of course, your stone now fully cooled, but still dark with ash, and stained with memory. The fire you build is small, just enough to stir the stones to life. You remember what Solène told you: flame is for spectacle, but heat is for food. So you bury the stones in the ash, instead let them hum instead of roar. That's how the elders do it. That's how the cooks on night shift survive. The night shift isn't glamorous. It means you cook for the people who return late field hands, kept too long in the cane rows, errand runners, sent miles away, or mothers who stayed with sick children while everyone else ate. You cook by emberlight, guided not by sight, but by scent, by feel, and by rhythm. You think there's a reason they let you try tonight. It's not just food, it's responsibility. You wash the ginger sliver in a calabash bowl and press it against your stone. You whisper the words Ma Danto murmured, pour l'esprit, pour chalet, for spirit, for heat. Then you begin. The stone sits like a judge beside your pot, a calabash cradle nested in a ring of glowing heat. You add chopped malanga, then water, careful not to spill. Each addition must match the song in your head. Not a real song, not something you'd hear with drums, but a beat nonetheless. Peel, chop, stir. Peel, chop, stir. There's no clock, but you don't need one. The bubbling tells you time. The steam tells you when to move. And the feel of the ladle in your hand, how heavy, how slow, tells you when it's almost done. Historians often assume night cooking was simple, just gruel ladled out for the tired. But you now understand. It's a test of skill. No light, no margin for error, no supervision, except your own standards. Night shift cooking is the truest form of mastery. It's why the best cooks are trusted with it. You press your fingers near the stone, not to touch, but to feel the air above it. Still warm, still steady. You ladle a scoop of broth into a smaller bowl and taste. Too bland. You glance around. Everyone else is asleep or away. You make a snap decision, wild time crushed between your palms, dropped into the pot, then a pinch of ash. Yes, ash from the last cassava fire. It adds a bitter depth, a smoky echo of something older. Then the key, you dip the ginger again once, twice, press it against the side of the pot, then let it rest on the stone. A silent prayer. You wait. The broth changes. Not visibly, not dramatically, but you feel it. The scent sharpens. The surface of the liquid thickens just a bit. You sip again, and this time your mouth warms not from spice, but from heat that feels emotional, comforting, like a hug held too long. Footsteps approach. A woman with tired eyes and stained palms sits nearby. You ladle a bowl without asking, hand it to her. She doesn't thank you, not with words, just sips, then exhales. Another arrives, limping slightly. You serve again, and again, and again. The fire never flares. The pot never boils over. The stone never cracks. You keep stirring, keep serving, until every shadow around the fire holds a body, with a bowl slurping slowly. Someone murmurs, "Who made this?" Someone else answers, "The one with the ginger stone." You grin, not wide, just enough. Eventually, when the pot runs dry and the stones begin to cool, you sit back and feel it settle over you. The quiet, the exhaustion, the pride. You didn't just feed people tonight. You joined something. The fire home, the stone ring, the memory. You bury your stone in the ashes to let it sleep. The ginger sliver goes in your pouch, and as the others drift away, belly's full, eyelids heavy, you stay a little longer watching the embers pulse like a heartbeat. That's when John appears, silently as always. He crouches, grabs your stone from the ash, turns it in his hand. "Good heat," he says. Then adds, "Stone like you." You raise an eyebrow. Quiet, but not weak. He hands it back. You don't need to say anything. The stone says enough. You press it to your palm, still faintly warm, and close your eyes. The night shift is over, but the warmth lingers. You don't think much about leftovers, at least not until today. In your world, leftovers are sad fridge items in plastic boxes microwaved without ceremony. But here in the fire-driven kitchens of Saint-Domingue, nothing is wasted, and nothing is ever truly finished. Food transforms meal to meal, day to day. It ferments it, dries it, smokes. It keeps speaking long after the fire's out. Today, you're with Selene again. She's crouched over a wide, shallow basket set beside a low fire pit. The pit isn't burning, not in the usual sense. Instead, glowing coals rest at the bottom, warming the air gently. And hovering above them, a thin wooden frame, cradling sliced fish yam skins and bundles of greens wrapped in muslin. It's a dehydrator, a quiet one, stone-lined. and it smells wild. What's that, you ask, pointing to a small dish off to the side bubbling thickly. She answers with a wink. Sauce. Of course it's sauce, but it's also something more. You watch as she peels back the muslin and reveals a cluster of roots tubers, maybe cassava or sweet potato, now hardened and darkened by slow heat. They've dried over 2 days. Beneath them, lava rocks hold the warmth steady. No fire needed. Just the memory of flames stored in stone. She's preserving food, you realize, but not in the salty, brine-filled barrels the French use. This is different. This is smoke logic, a system built on patience, on using the earth's own rhythm. The sauce thickens. Solène dips a spoon, tastes, and grimaces. Too bland. She grabs her stone, and dips it just for a moment into the bubbling pot. You blink. Did you just season the sauce with a rock? She shrugs. Stone, remember last stew. Share little bit. You try to decide if she's joking, but the flavor changes, and your jaw drops. Historians still argue whether fermented sauces in colonial Haiti were intentionally created or happy accidents born of hot weather and lack of refrigeration. Some suggest the earliest pepper sauces were inspired by West African fermenting traditions, mixed with Taino ingredients and techniques. Others claim it was all desperation. Either way, the result is a category of flavors so deep, so alive, they practically hum on the tongue. You sip the sauce ginger citrus pepper, and something else. Something you felt yesterday near the Vodou hearth. Memory spirit burnt mango skin. You don't know, but it dances across your palate. Solène adds a splash of ash water to balance the flavor. Yes, ash. She's collected it from last night's cooking fire, filtered it through cloth, and now uses it like broth. It thickens. It darkens. It binds. You never look at ash the same way again. Another cook, Lisette, arrives with a bundle of smoked fish wrapped in a palm leaf. She unwraps it, and you nearly stagger from the intensity, sweet, oily, sharp, with salt and lemon. It's been cured not with salt alone, but with volcanic ash. Lisette explains, you rub it in, let it sleep by the fire, turn it every day. How long? She shrugs, until it tells you it's done. Simple enough. You taste a piece. It flakes easily, but the outside is crusted with a thin gray sheen. Ash. You expect it to be dusty, but it's not. It's savory, almost smoky sweet, like charred sugar with teeth. Jean shows up halfway through and contributes something truly bizarre. A sealed gourd that, when opened, releases the sharpest, funkiest scent you've ever smelled. It's an aged pepper mash, not rotten fermented. Heated gently every few days with hot stones placed around the gourd. Never boiled, never rushed. He pours a dab into Solène's sauce. The entire mixture deepens into something indescribable. You swear it hums. This is no longer food. It's potion. It's alchemy. You begin to understand why the volcanic stone matters, even in preservation. It's not just about cooking. It's about time. These stones allow food to evolve slowly, gently, without spoilage. They hold the exact temperature for drying, fermenting, smoking, sometimes all at once. Lisette takes her smoked fish slices. It folds it into charred cassava bread and hands it to a little boy passing through. He's clearly run errands, judging by the sweat on his forehead. He grins, takes a bite, runs off. No thank you, but none needed. Here food isn't gratitude, it's life. Later, Solène shows you her cache beneath a hollowed log, lined with cooled lava rocks. She's storing dried greens and fermented yam paste in gourds. It's a pantry. Primitive only to the untrained eye. To you, it's a miracle of physics and faith. You sit with her as she mixes the last of the ash into a batch of softened maize. She spreads it flat across a stone, flips it once, then lets it cool. You eat in silence, the flavor deep, layered, like it lived another life before landing in your mouth. You ask if she ever cooks without stones. She stares at you. Why would I do that, fair point? You walk away with a taste that stays in your mouth for hours. Not unpleasant, just unforgettable, like smoke caught in your teeth. Tonight, you bury your own stone beside the fire, then cover it with banana leaves, not to hide it, but to prepare it, because tomorrow you'll try preserving something yourself, and maybe it will remember your hands the way you remember its warmth. You wake to a melody, not from a drum or a voice, but from wheels squeaking against stone, from calabashes clinking, and from the rhythm of chatter floating on the breeze. Market day. You follow the sound down the dusty path past the cane fields, where women balance impossible bundles on their heads, baskets swaying with plantains, Pepper's clay jars, and yes stones. Not just any stones, volcanic ones, black and dense, some smooth from long use, others jagged and raw, like they just broke free from the mountains yesterday. You watch as one woman, barefoot wrapped in sun-bleached linen, haggles over the weight of a particular rock, like it's a goat. Her name is Clémence, and you'll never see someone bargain over basalt with more flair. You ask her, "They really trade cooking stones?" She raises an eyebrow. "We don't trade rocks. We trade reliability." She lets you walk with her. Clémence is what the others call a fait manger, femme mâché, a market food woman. She doesn't just cook, she moves food. Across villages, plantations, even into towns, where French palates pretend to despise what they secretly crave. In her basket today, dried okra, small bundles of allspice, wrapped in leaves, fermented yam cakes, and 5 polished lava stones wrapped in goat hide. Each has a name etched in chalk. She explains people want consistency. If a stone made the best cornmeal last week, they'll pay to get it again. You think she's joking, until you see it happen. A woman in the next village stops her cart just to buy the tibois stone little wood. It had been used in a wedding feast, and rumor has it brought luck to the bride. You hold the stone in your hand. It's warm, though it's been hours since it saw flame. Clémence sells it with a gourd of preserved pepper mash and a bundle of green banana. Not a bad combo, she says. You realize something strange. Volcanic stones aren't just cookware anymore. They're brands. Each one has a story, a reputation, a customer base. She opens her satchel and pulls out a tiny carved stone, no bigger than your palm. This one, she says, makes rice sweeter. Don't ask me why. It just does. Historians never talk about this stone trade as informal economy, a quiet barter network carried entirely by women who move between villages on tired feet and stubborn determination. They pass recipes, gossip warnings, and occasionally coded messages wrapped in banana leaves and ash-dusted cheesecloth. Some stones are communal. Others are family-owned. Some are borrowed, but rarely. Borrowed stones carry risk. What if the dish fails? What if the spirit in the stone isn't in the mood? Clémence laughs when you ask. They moody, she says, patting her basket, like men or goats. You pass through an open area where several women are gathered around flat griddles made from volcanic slabs. It's like a mini food court, cassava cakes, sizzling fritters, browning spicy sauces bubbling in hollowed calabash shells. The stones here serve not only as tools, but as tables. The heat beneath them managed with finesse, the dishes rotated with muscle memory you envy. You try a cassava pancake hot from the stone, smeared with fermented mango paste and a touch of ground chili. Your mouth burns, then purrs. Next to you, two women argue about whether coastal lava or mountain stone makes better flatbread. You silently choose mountain but don't say so. Better to stay neutral. You ask Clemence how she learned all this. She shrugs. My mother sold coal. My grandmother sold salt. I sell heat. That sticks with you. At one stall, a man tries to sell tin pans at a discount. No one even looks. He leaves angry. His clanging pots echo behind him like a warning bell in this world. Trust lives in stone, not in metal. You watch Clemence close 3 more sales each, wrapped with care stone herbs, dried starch, maybe a piece of smoked fish. The exchange isn't quick. There's chatting, joking, even a brief dance between 2 older women giggling like girls. The stones pass from hand to hand like shared secrets. You ask if anyone ever fakes it, sells a regular rock, pretends it's volcanic. Oh yes, she says. Happens all the time. But the food always tells. One customer once came back angry, saying the stew never boiled right, even after hours. Clemence took one look at the stone and said this came from the river, not the mountain. She was right. River stones hiss, but they don't hold. Before you part ways, she presses a small, perfectly rounded black stone into your hand. You carry this. Not for cooking. For weight. What kind of weight, she smiles. The kind that keeps you upright. You don't know what to say. So you just hold the stone, its smooth surface still warm from the sun, and follow the dusty road back to camp. Later, when you show it to Jean, he nods. That one belonged to Amour, he says. Who? He glances at the horizon. The first woman to sell lava stones here. They say she cooked for Toussaint before he became Toussaint. You cradle the stone in both hands. And for the first time, you realize it's not just history under your fingertips. It's movement, memory, commerce, survival. You sleep with it beside your head that night, and you dream of markets buzzing with heat-flavor laughter, and of stones whispering names in the dark. By now you know the rhythm. You know when a stone is ready by its hiss. You know how much ash to mix into maize. You even know not to flinch when someone dips a glowing rock directly into broth. What you didn't know, what no one told you, is that the French are watching. You notice it first in the manor kitchen. You've been allowed to help there a few times, peeling plantains, fetching water, keeping quiet. The head cook, a portly Frenchman named Dupin, always sneered at the food from the quarters. Savage soup, he once muttered. Smells like rot. But now he's curious. You see it in the way he lingers when the stew pot bubbles, in the way he sniffs the air when Jean's smoky broth passes by on a worker's tray. And most of all, you see it in his hands, how they hover too long over the volcanic stone Solène gave you to warm butter, as if it might teach him something without speaking. Today, he takes it. Curious rock, he says, rolling it in his palm. Warmth like this. How long it lasts. You want to lie. You want to say it's useless. But it's too late. He drops it into a pot of broth. You try not to wince. A few days later, the manor's stews begin to taste different. Richer. Smokier. The French guests comment on the depth of flavor. The master nods smugly. Dupin accepts the compliments with a thin smile. And no one says a word about where the technique came from. Colonial theft doesn't always wear a soldier's boots. Sometimes it wears an apron. You speak to Gian about it that night beside the coals. They're stealing the stones now, you say. He doesn't look surprised. They already took the land. Why not the fire, too? It's not new. It's just infuriating. Historians document how Haitian flavors, pickles, spicy bouillon, stone-roasted goat eventually appeared in French cookbooks, but rarely with credit. The enslaved cooks who carried those recipes in their bones, nameless. The volcanic stones, too, became props in elite kitchens. The French didn't understand their spirit, only their utility. They used them to elevate dishes, to impress guests, to recreate what they claimed to invent. In one room, the stone roasts plantains over sacred ash. In the next, it rests beside pâté and foie gras, a fashionable garnish. It makes your stomach churn. One afternoon, you're called into the manor kitchen to assist with a new preparation. Dupin has set up a fire pit indoors, lined with borrowed volcanic rock. He's searing duck breast directly on the stones, pressing it with a wooden plank for even heat. It's faster than a skillet, he announces proudly. More natural, yes. You say nothing. The aroma is familiar wild thyme, sweet onion, the faint echo of fire, but it feels hollow. No memory, no hum, no quiet whisper of ancestors through steam. He cuts a slice and offers it to a guest. They swoon. Call it provocative. Later alone, you retrieve the stone he used and press it to your palm. It's cold already. Jean finds you that night holding it like something broken. You feel it too, huh? You nod. They can copy the method, he says, but not the meaning. That helps. A little, but it still stings. Solène is furious when she hears. They don't even listen to the stone she says. They just use it like a spoon. That's the difference. For you, for Jean, for Solène, the volcanic stone is a conversation partner. For Dupin, it's just another trick in a bag of culinary illusions. You ask Ma Danteau if she's worried. She shakes her head slowly. Let them take the surface, she says. The heat, the sizzle, the outside of the flavor. Then she leans in her voice soft as smoke, but they'll never learn to sing to it. That night, you cook a small stew in your own pit, nothing fancy, just ground yam, dried greens, and a sliver of citrus peel. You press your stone into the center. You hum while it heats. When it's done, you ladle out 3 bowls, one for Jean, one for Solène, one for yourself. You eat in silence, and you know they might mimic the heat, but they'll never taste the fire. You're kneeling by the fire ring again, this time with flour dust on your fingers and damp leaves tucked behind your ears for shade. Solène's beside you, shaping dough with the same focus she gave to stitching her daughter's torn tunic last night. Only this time, instead of cloth, her hands mold cassava. Cassava flour water, a pinch of ash, a whisper of salt scraped from the sea. And that's it. No yeast, no oven, no butter. But what comes next is not what you expect. She lifts a large volcanic stone, wide and flat, already blistering with heat. She sets it carefully on 3 smaller rocks, forming a tripod over embers. No pan, no tray. This is the griddle, stone hot enough, you ask. She flicks water onto the surface. It vanishes with a hiss. Stone always ready before people, she says dryly. Then comes the dance. She lays a circle of dough gently on the center, thin, even shaped by memory. There's no timer, no clock. Just smell. You watch the edge lift ever so slightly. That's her cue. Flip. Steam rises in a slow sigh. The air smells nutty warm and faintly grassy, like baking bread that's been kissed by fire. And it's not just one. Soon there's another, and another. Flat cakes pressed and flipped, turning gold on the belly of a rock that once swam in magma. She breaks the first one apart and offers you half. It cracks with a clean snap steam curling from its core. You bite. It's crunchy but soft in the center, smoky but not bitter, simple, honest, like the kind of bread you'd want with soup or to soak up stew or to carry in a pocket as insurance against the world. Stone bread, she says. Every house got it, or wants it. She hands one to a little boy, who runs past barefoot, smiling too fast to thank her. Then another, to a grandmother who appears without warning, muttering about aching knees. No one pays. No one counts. The bread just flows. It's not the only kind. Later that morning, you help shape a different batter, thicker, wetter. It smells like mashed plantains and fermented corn. Lisette joins you, laughing at your clumsy attempts to spread it thin. She takes over, smearing a palmful of paste across a greased leaf, then slapping it straight onto the stone. No spatula, no grace, just confidence. You watch the ash cake puff and firm browning at the edges. She peels it off in one motion, folds it around a dollop of crushed beans, and hands it to you. You eat it, standing up, juice running down your wrist. It tastes like rebellion. Historians rarely dwell on this. They record the great stews, the fish, the spices, but they often skip the bread, the humble carrier, the edible plate. But here the bread is everything. It's portable, durable, made with ingredients you don't have to beg the masters for, and when baked on a hot rock, it's practically indestructible. French bread mold too quick, Solène says. This one lasts all week, if rats don't find it first. She chuckles, but there's truth there. You learn to press the cakes thinner, flip faster, let them rest on a second cooler stone for finishing. The texture matters. Some like them crisp as crackers. Others want them soft enough to fold. You make one that bubbles oddly in the center. Solène pokes it with a stick. Shrugs. Accident, she says, then tastes it. Good accident. She sets it aside in a leaf and marks it with ash. Save that one. Why, you ask? Might be the next recipe. It dawns on you experimentation is alive here. Not with pen and paper, but with fire and touch and memory. Bread changes, evolves. A mistake today is tomorrow's new flavor. You try your own twist, adding mashed mango, a sprinkle of anise. The result, too sweet. It burns on the stone. Solène doesn't scold. She just hands you more flour and nods. Try again. You do. And this time it works. As the sun climbs, more people drift toward your little fire ring. You serve one ash cake with dried fish, another with spicy greens. Someone slips you a ribbon of candied lime peel in exchange. And that's how it goes. Stone bread becomes currency, celebration, comfort. You see a young girl pocket one for her walk to the river. You see a man tuck two into his sash for the long march to another plantation. You see a baby gum one until it crumbles, giggling through the drool. That night, you wrap 3 in leaves and hide them under your mat. Not because you're hungry, because now you make bread, and tomorrow, someone else will eat it. The night feels heavier than usual, like the air has soaked up all the sweat and secrets of the day. A drum beats in the distance, not close, not loud, but steady. You follow it, slipping through the palm fronds and dusty paths, drawn towards something more than music. It's a ceremony, but not the kind with chanting or flames. This one smells like dessert, molasses. You've smelled it before in the boiling sheds, where enslaved hands tend sugar kettles the size of small boats. But this scent is different. It's richer, deeper, mixed with ginger and citrus, and something else, something primal. You arrive in a clearing where Ma Danto Solène and 3 other women are gathered around a fire ring. The coals glow faintly, just enough to illuminate their faces. In the center stones. Volcanic, of course. Blackened, warm, and waiting. Laid across them are small cakes, dark, round, slightly cracked. They smell like fire and syrup and spice. Gâteau cendré, someone says. Ash cakes, but not the savory kind. These are sweet, made from mashed banana ground, cassava brown molasses, and a touch of fermented coconut. No sugar from the master's stores. This is wild sweetness, owned sweetness. You sit down wordlessly, letting the scent wrap around you. It's not just dessert. It's offering. Ma Danto presses her palm flat against a glowing stone beside her. This one's ready. She lifts a cake and places it in a woven basket lined with banana leaves. Then another, and another. 10 cakes in total. What are they for, you ask? She doesn't answer with words. Instead, she carries the basket to a low altar, made from 3 stones, and sets it down with a bow of her head. An offering, to whom you don't ask again. But you notice there are no men here, just women, and fire, and cakes born from earth and patience. Solène hands you a smaller one. Not for spirits, she says. This one's for you. It's warm, sticky on the edges, soft in the center. You bite. The molasses hits first, deep, almost bitter, like burned caramel. Then the banana. Then the ash. Yes, ash. It lingers on your tongue, not like dirt, but like memory. A hint of charcoal. A whisper of what came before. You ask how they made them. Stone-cooked, Ma Danto says. No oven. Just pressure. Just heat. The batter had been mixed at dawn. It rested all day, slow fermenting in the sun. Then at dusk they poured small dollops onto heated stones and covered them with domed leaves. Steam trapped. Sugar sealed. Cakes born from stillness. Historians barely mention these cakes. Most never knew they existed. Maybe because they were never served to masters. Maybe because they disappeared so quickly after the drums stopped. But in this moment you understand. These cakes are resistance. Because sugar is pain here. Sugar is lashes and branding irons and chained wrists, stirring vats that boil skin from bone. But this sugar, this dark syrup drizzled by hand over stone-roasted dough, this is joy. This is reclaiming sweetness from bitterness. A child wanders into the circle barefoot and drowsy, clutching a rag doll. Solène gives him a small piece. He chews slowly, eyes half closed, then crawls into her lap. You see others too. Young mothers, older women, even girls not yet old enough to carry water, all gathered around the fire, passing cakes, pressing their palms to the warm stones, humming as they eat. Ma Danto begins to chant softly. Not words, just a melody. It rises like steam. You notice the stones glowing a little brighter now, reflecting the faces of the women, their quiet power, their legacy. Not just cooks, not just servants, but alchemists. They've taken molasses, colonial blood, and turned it into sacred cake. You try another. This one has a bit of citrus peel folded inside. It bites back, but gently. Solène leans toward you. Some say, the stone decides how sweet it turns out. You laugh, but not fully. Because after everything you've seen, maybe it's not a joke. You help with the last batch. You ladle batter onto the hot rock, careful not to let it run. You press a leaf over the top, pat it gently, then wait. You don't touch your stone this time. You listen to it. When it's done, you lift it slowly. The bottom is perfectly caramelized, the top puffed slightly. You hand it to Ma Danto. She sniffs, nods. Good offering, she says, and places it with the others. That night, you lie beside the fire ring, the scent of molasses still on your fingers. You think about sweetness, how rare it is here, how fleeting, How powerful when it comes not from a master's hand, but your own. The stars blink lazily above you, and the stones beside you still warm, still humming sleep like gods. The rain starts quietly tapping on the leaves like someone testing a drum. You blink awake beneath a damp blanket of banana fiber and ash-scented cloth. It's early, too early, but you're already on your feet, moving toward the grove where the real secrets live. Today, you're not just helping in the plantation kitchens. You're heading deeper, into the jungle, into maroon country. The Maroons escaped slaves don't cook like anyone else. They can't afford to. Their fires can't smoke. Their scents can't travel. Their voices can't rise above the trees. Silence is survival. But even in silence, they've built a cuisine all their own, and you're about to see it. You slip between trees guided by Jean's whisper. He leads you through a narrow pass past a rock, shaped like a lion's head, past a stream that smells faintly of limes. Finally, you arrive at a clearing where a pit is already smoking, but not upwards. The smoke curls through a hollowed-out gourd, then drifts sideways along a trench buried in leaves. It vanishes into the undergrowth, smoke redirected, hidden, brilliant. At the center is a woman named Yaele. She barely looks up when you arrive. She's bent over a bundle of damp cloth, unwrapping it to reveal spiced tubers, already softened and rubbed with red palm oil. Beside her stones, you recognize them instantly. Volcanic, blackened, familiar. They've made their way here too. Yaele gestures for you to help. You kneel, and she passes you a sliver of dried meat wild boar, she says. Salted smoked, then wrapped in leaves and buried beneath the stones for 2 days. Now it's soft, rich, and shockingly tender. You taste it. It's smoky, spicy, with a whisper of citrus, and something harder to place, something like wood smoke and freedom. She doesn't cook in pots. She cooks in hollows, small indentations, dug into the ground, ringed with lava rocks, filled with heated stones and topped with wet leaves. No scent, no flame, just radiant warmth. You build one yourself, following her lead. You dig-line it with stones, add embers wrapped in ashcloth. Then you lay your bundle of cassava and fish, close it with layers of wet moss and leaves, and walk away. It will be ready by night, she says, if you built it right. There's no timer, no thermometer, just faith. You spend the rest of the morning helping collect water in palm gourds and foraging for wild greens. Some you recognize culantro bitterleaf. Others are new sharp, with scent, with names that vanish into the trees the moment they're whispered. Yaele doesn't talk much, but when she does, her voice is low and quick. Stones don't lie, she says. If the food fails, it's your fault. Fair enough. You ask where she got her stones. She smiles for the first time. From the fire that freed me. You don't press for more. But you imagine it a woman running barefoot through a burning cane field, a lava stone clutched in her skirt like a holy relic. Later, she lets you stir the broth. Yes, even the Maroons have broth. It's brewed in a cracked clay bowl, tucked into a hollow beside the fire pit, with hot stones pressed to its sides. Into it goes everything tuber skins, crushed bark, smoked pepper, dried orange peel, even crushed snails. It smells like earth and thunder and ash, like rain-soaked dreams, like defiance. Historians often mention the Maroons briefly, as footnotes, as problems, but they rarely mention their kitchens, their strategies, their volcanic cook fires hidden beneath moss and silence. They should, because here cooking is warfare, not with knives but with patience, not with boiling cauldrons but with disappearance. Food must nourish yes, but also leave no trace. Your own buried bundle finishes just as the sky begins to darken. You dig it out carefully, peeling back the layers of leaves to reveal steamed fish-tender cassava, and a scent so delicate it barely escapes your hand. You eat in the shadows with only the sound of frogs and the shifting of stones beside you. It's one of the best meals you've ever had. Later, you ask Yaela if she's ever used firewood. She shakes her head. Too loud. You nod, understanding now. Even heat must whisper. That night, as you leave the camp, Jean hands you a pouch. Inside, a small stone still warm. Yaeli said you earned it, he says. You blink. The stone is smaller than your palm, perfectly smooth, charred white at the edges. It hums when you hold it close to your chest. She said it's quiet, Jean adds, like you, but it holds heat longer than it should. You don't speak for a while. Back at your quarters, you bury it beside your sleeping mat. Not to hide it, to let it rest. You whisper to it just once before sleep claims you, I'll cook with you soon. And you swear the stone answers back, wordless, warm, and ready. The morning after the full moon, the world feels different. It's not just the cooler air brushing your face, or the soft hush of dew on banana leaves. It's the silence. That charged silence that settles over places after something irreversible has happened. The revolt has begun. You don't see it in fire, not yet, but you feel it in every glance. Every pot passed hand to hand, every stone nestled tighter into the earth. Something has shifted. The rhythm of the kitchens is slower now, intentional, watching. You follow Jean through a winding path out beyond the plantation lines, past sugarcane rows now trampled underfoot, past fences torn open in the night. There are no words spoken between you, just the crunch of soil, the weight of what's coming. You arrive at the edge of what used to be a manor outpost burned last night, you think, or the night before. Charred beams jut from the ground like broken ribs. But the stones remain. They always do. Jean doesn't mourn the structure. He walks straight to a pile of collapsed stone from the outdoor kitchen. He kneels, brushes off ash with reverence. These were good ones, he says. They cooked 1,000 meals. You help him sort through them, brushing off soot, setting the survivors aside. Some are cracked beyond use. Others just need time. The same could be said for the people here. You gather the stones in cloth bundles and carry them to a new pit freshly dug in the lee of a hill, hidden by tall grasses and guarded by silence. It's not much, but it's enough. You build the fire slowly, you use the stones gently, and this time, you don't cook for nourishment. You cook for memory. Selene appears with a basket of soaked rice and smoked eggplant. Yael brings cassava cakes. Even Ma Danto arrives stone in hand, humming low and steady. It's not just a meal, it's a reckoning. You take your place by the stones and press your palm flat against one. It's warm. So warm, despite the coldness creeping in from everything else. The broth you make is simple yam leaf fire salt, but there's a depth to it now, a heaviness. Every taste carries echoes of laughter and sorrow, of sweat, and song of everything that came before. This is what it means to remember through food. Historians will one day write about Toussaint Dessalines, the revolution. They'll mention the uprisings and the burning cane fields. But they may never write about this, how it all tasted, how revolution simmered before it shouted, how the stones fed it long before the swords did. You serve the last bowl to an elder sitting beneath a tree. His eyes are clouded, but when he tastes it, he smiles like he recognizes it. This tastes like the first time he says. You don't ask what he means. You just nod, because it does. The fire dies slowly, as if reluctant to go. You don't douse the stones this time. You thank them, one by one. As dusk falls, you and Jen bury the leftovers, not because there's shame, but because tomorrow may not leave time to cook. The revolution has erupted quietly, but the stones remain. They always do. Now, as the fires fade and the earth cools, you lie back against the soil, the scent of smoke still curling in your hair. The stones, once blistering, now hum faintly with warmth, beside your shoulder like old friends whispering lullabies. You hear them crack, gently in the cooling air, like joints stretching after a long day. You think of every hand that touched them, every song sung to them, every flavor coaxed from their heat. The taste of cassava and citrus still lingers on your tongue, subtle now softened by time. Above you, the stars blink to life one by one, not in a hurry, just showing up like they always do. And you remember that in this world so full of hardship and hunger and history, it's the quiet rituals that remain strongest. The meals made in silence, the fire shared under darkness, the memory held in stone. The wind moves through the tall grass, gentle as breath. You nestle deeper into the earth, into the warmth left behind by a day well spent, and feel your own body soften bones. Heavy thoughts, slow. Your eyes drift closed, not because you're told to sleep, but because your body trusts this moment. Because the heat around you is just right. Because the stone beside you holds more than warmth, it holds belonging. And as your breath evens out, and the sounds of the jungle cradle you, you realize you've carried the fire well. Sleep now. Let the stones keep watch.